Yeah, what up, man? Base boxing basement in the ass. Triple B, yeah, please at least like, because it's free. And there's, haters simmering with bitterness who's trying to bring down the truth and reality. One of those is Clarence Shields. But anyway, I think that I was thinking about boxing, yeah? You know how, like, they got all these uh, famous sons and daughters now, and they make loads of money, even though they're never as good as their dad, unless their dad was a bit whack. The best son of a fighter would be Floyd Mayweather Jr., but his father wasn't like that good. He was decent, but not that good. Whenever you get like a proper star, you know, it's very hard for the sons. Excuse me, sorry, I'm just eating some corn on the cob with chipotle paste. There you go, all gone. Yeah, so whenever you get a son of someone, who is, was a legend, if you like, they usually underperform. I mean, it's very tough for them. Sometimes they start later. I mean, who's the best one? I don't know, man. Excuse me, Tim Zoo. Yeah, he's been kind of exposed now, but at least he won a world title. It was exciting. Maybe, who else? Marvis Frazier likes, but he was kind of a small heavyweight, and he's kind of thrown in at the deep end against Larry Holmes and Mike Tyson, but he was a very good amateur. And his dad, Joe Frazier, tried to make him into a left hooker when he was actually a skilled boxer. Marvis is actually one of my favorite, offspring of, famous fighters. Yeah, I think I'm going to do a video on him, but I like Marvis Frazier. I think, because, he didn't spend too long in the game. He tried it. He was a very good amateur, so he flew around the world. He said he really enjoyed it. When you see, I've seen interviews with him. He comes across as real nice. Obviously, he's not punchy. He didn't go on too much. I think he only lost 2 fights in the first round. Now, being knocked out is never good, but it's better to be knocked out in the first round than take a 10, 12 round hiding. Those are the fights that really damage people. But Marvis, and then he retired, and I think he's a preacher man. Yeah, he's a preacher man, and the interviews he comes across well. But so he at least fought for the world title. Who else is there? I mean, obviously Conor Bum, Chris Eubank Jr. I mean, he's okay, but you can go on and on and on and on and on. And then if you want to look female, Layla Ali, but female boxing. Then it was even whacker than it is now, but I don't care about female boxing, so I don't give a rat's ass about Layla Ali. It's funny, Muhammad Ali didn't even have any boys. He only had girls. He adopted a boy who was called Muhammad Ali Jr. rather unimaginatively, but I think he ended up a crackhead. Yeah, he ended up a crackhead. I hope he's clean now, but and then you've got Ali's grandsons who are white, and Ali used to hate white people, and there's pictures of him holding the little kids, and they're real white. Well, obviously they're not; they're mixed, but Nico Ali is like pale as anything. He's almost as white as Ricky Hatton, and he tries to make himself look more black, obviously by becoming a Muslim and putting cornrows in his hair. He's a bit whack anyway. The other son, what's the other son? He did MMA, didn't he? Biagio. I don't know if he's had any fights, but he did some college football, and he looks like a model. But anyway, I'm going on a tangent. But yeah, I don't know. Sons of these fighters, Tommy Morrison, Kenzie Morrison, all the good fighters, their sons will never live up. Hasim Ratman Jr., who I think Kenzie or Trey Lipe Morrison, I can't remember. One of them knocked him out. These guys find it hard to reach the heights of their dad. But if they can make money out of it, I ain't hating on them. I just don't like it being pushed in my face. Yeah, of course, Count Bellantatten. I mean, I resented him. Why? Because he was whack. He was an arrogant little turd, a little twerp. He really thought he was the big man. Yeah. And to the extent that They pushed him so hard on Sky. I mean, it shows you they know nothing about boxing, Sky. Anyone who'd seen him fight or seen him in the gym would think, okay, he needs to be brought along slowly. But no, in his second fight, I think it was, the preliminary, the walk-in fight for Camp Belland-Hatton was Dimitri Bivol, a pound-for-pound fight. Can you imagine? And then there was the classic Adam Smith line, wasn't that, when Camp Belland-Hatton came in? And as, what's that Manchester City song? Blue Moon, yeah, Blue Moon. And as Blue Moon plays on the background, it reminds you of his father, Ricky Hatton, in the old days. The hairs on the back of your neck are standing up, aren't they, Matthew? What an idiot. No, there was no hair standing up on the back of my neck. I thought, you're a mug. I can't believe they're pushing this clown. And I wouldn't be, fair enough, try boxing, but don't be arrogant. Especially after you took an ass whipping from a guy who was a journeyman, and lost 5 out of 6 rounds or whatever it was, and then claimed you won it, Anyway, that bum's fixing solar panels now, so that's probably better. At least he's got a job now, probably his first job ever. He'll be a bit bitter, but he would have made a few quid, undeservedly. They probably gave him a nice signing on bonus because they thought, hang on, Campbell and Hatton. They probably talked to like Ricky, and Matthew Hatton. And of course, they're going to say, we're decent fighters. Matthew actually had the better chin. He went 12 with Canelo. Was Ricky Hatton's chin. He's one of the what is it? He's one of the only guys that Mayweather knocked out for like 12 years or something, And then Pacquiao absolutely flattened him. He looked like he'd been flatlined. He looked like being shot in the head. But if he'd had Matthew's chin, he would have been a slightly better fighter, But yeah, so I was just thinking, why has no one thought of a decent breeding program? A decent breeding program, for future boxers, to make future superstars, to make future super fights, And I was thinking, well, okay, who would you breed? Because like Ebony Biatches, that revolting hoe with the bolt-on, fake ditties, and her horrible tattoos and constellation of moles. She's just so gross. And then there's Kell Brook, who's a batty man. Yeah, even though he's got kids, but he's got kids, he can't be gay. Yeah. So's Gay J, allegedly. So's Philip Schofield. Elton John married 2 women. Freddie Mercury went out with a girl and left his fortune to her. So stop talking, man. Most batty men, have women as well. At some point, they just realized that, batty business and cordy business is their preferable option because they're sick. Lennox is another one. Anyway, so... Oh, and by the way, I don't even think the child is Kell Brooks. Have you seen the child recently, man? It's got bright blue eyes and white skin and blonde hair. I think it's Conor McGregor's kid, She definitely got rumped by Conor. I think it's Conor McGregor's kid. Look at it. Yeah, why haven't they thought of starting a breeding program? Like I said, I did a video before on how I was pretty sure Peter Fury wanted to breed Hughie, because he had Hughie Fury, he was his son, obviously. And Savannah Marshall was one of his charges. And, as far as women goes, we all know it's whack, yardie. But Savannah Marshall, actually was one of the few women who actually had a decent knockout ratio, And I thought they were going to breed Hughie. Peter was sitting there rubbing his hands thinking, if I can breed Hughie and Savannah Marshall together, if I can get them to make an offspring, they'll have Hughie's boxing skills, And as we all know, as Mick Hennessy told us, when Hughie Fury wants to box well, he shows shades of Muhammad Ali. Shades of Muhammad Ali. I mean, that should be his nickname, isn't it? Yeah? Hughie Fury, you know what his middle name is? Huey Lewis Fury. Huey Lewis? Huey Lewis in the News? It's spelled differently, but that's funny. There's also a James Dean Fury. They seem to like naming, the Fury family seem to like naming some of their kids after, famous people. James Dean, Huey Lewis in the News. the thing is about Huey Lewis in the news, right? Yeah. I used to quite like Huey Lewis in the news. He never quite made it in the UK. He was big in America. He had a bit of a bouffant haircut, very 80s guy. But I quite liked him, I Want a New Drug, The Power of Love is a Curious Thing, Hip to Be Square. If you ask me, man, Huey Lewis, I don't know, his early work was a little too kind of new wave for my taste. But, when Sports came out in 83, I think the group really came into their own, commercially and artistically. The whole album has this clear, crisp sound and a new sheen of consummate professionalism that really gives the songs a big boost. He's been compared to Elvis Costello, but, I think Huey has a far more bitter, cynical sense of humor. And, in 87, Huey released Four, their most accomplished album. I think the undisputed masterpiece is Hip to Be Square, a song so catchy, most people don't listen to the lyrics, but they should, okay? It's not just about the pleasures of conformity and the importance of trends. It's also a personal statement about the band itself. Anyway, so Huey Lewis Fury. So they should, as I said, Peter had hoped to mate him and Savannah. Unfortunately, the plan didn't go. I don't know whether Huey tried. Maybe he couldn't get wood. I mean, Savannah isn't bad looking, but she's still like 12 stone with she's got this wide, slightly flabby ass. Would I be able to get wood for her? Yeah, if you're talking about producing a future champion, I'd be able to do it. I'd be able to get the wood, the necessary wood to do the deed, do the business. But for whatever reason, anyway, Savannah eventually turned to rug munching. She's going out with this other, I can't remember her name, blonde boxer who's actually quite cute, but whatever. She's into rug munching. So that breeding program didn't work, unfortunately. It didn't work. But then I was thinking, what other breeding programs could you have? What would be the ultimate future super fight? Yeah. And I'm thinking, it's got to be USA vs UK. What would be the biggest fights? And, heavyweight. I'm talking heavyweights, right? Heavyweights here, they're always the kings. I remember when I was boxing with this guy. I wasn't really a boxing fan. And it was a welterweight fight. And he's like, I can't remember which one. He's like, oh, man, I ain't really interested in boxing unless they're heavyweights, man. And he kind of right and had a point. People go, oh, you got so much skill. Sonia Edwards is so skillful. And Chocolatito, he's pound for pound the best. These bumbuckler pussy holes weigh like, they're like 112 pounds, man. They weigh about as much as one of my legs. It's stupid. And it's, with the heavyweights are the kangs. Like I said, boxing pure, there's only the heavyweight division. There ain't no divisions, right? What happens on the streets? You don't go, I'm sorry, bro. I know you just called me a wanker and said you want to iron me out because I stepped on your foot, but I'm only a lightweight, whereas you're a heavyweight, and I don't think, well, I'm on middleweight and you're a heavyweight. We're out of each other's fight divisions. So, I'm not prepared to fight you, like catch weight. No, there'd be a fight, If you get to a fight on the street, it's up to you, man. It's all catch weight on the street. There ain't no weight divisions. But obviously boxing's a sport, but the weight divisions were invented so the manlets could have a chance to actually take part in the sport. As I said a minute and one time, there ain't no NBA height divisions, They ain't like a dwarf like NBA where it goes, well, not only will we will lower the basket so they can dunk, but it'll be for dwarves and midgets, or if you're only guys that are 5'4" and under can play in the midget league, midget NBA. It'll be great fun. Actually, it probably would be quite fun. It's certainly better than the women's NBA, which is so whack. They're all crying about, we want equal pay. All the women's NBA does is lose money. No one's interested in these whack women. You go and watch some highlights. There's like one white woman who's quite good, and she's always getting dissed by the homegirls because they don't want a white biatch being good at the basketball. I can't remember her name. I don't know if she's a rugmancer, probably. Anyways, yeah, put it in the comments if you remember her name. Caitlyn something? Caitlyn? Not Caitlyn Jenner, that's the Transformer. Caitlyn something? Anyways, so yeah, this breeding program. So what would happen? What would happen with the breeding program? When I thought you got to be the heavyweights, you got to aim for a heavyweight child, right? Now sometimes you get a big guy and his kid will actually be smaller than him. Yeah, yeah. In my family, the kids have always been bigger in the generations. You know, they've got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Yeah, and you know, if you breed with the right person, right? Somebody who's not, who's from a different gene pool and that kind of thing. You usually have better offspring, better looking offspring. It's quite often very, very much mixed nationality. Mixed nationality. Yeah, mixed nationalities. You have some people from different gene pools. They have a lot of different kinds of blood in them. They usually end up better looking. This is proven, by the way. This ain't chill B theory. This is proven, by the way, by science. If you got a number of different bloodlines from different gene pools, and that doesn't mean race, it means like I said, you get someone who's got German blood, let's say, a little bit of Russian blood, a little bit of UK blood, maybe a touch of Italian, and then they're more likely to come out good looking, tall, intelligent, good at sport. Whereas the closer the gene pool get, the more likely to be ugly, inbred, suffer from microcephaly. You know that thing when the heads are really small. Yeah. So as I was saying, who would you breed? Well, it's got to be heavyweights, like I said. And I want UK vs USA, super fight. So who do we breed? Well, what do we have in the amateurs? The pros recently in the world title. Who was the best recent British pro? Tyson Fury. Got to be Tyson Fury. He's massive as well. Massive guy. Or you could have his brother, Sugar Shane Fury. Sugar Shane was a boxer. Was an amateur, a good fighter, very strong guy. You could see he's a breeding bull. He's probably got 2 balls the size of watermelons. And you put him on top of, Savannah Marshall, and you get a big, aggressive, violent fighter. Yeah? But you could mix, probably better, you could, because obviously the Hugh Fury experiment didn't work. They didn't manage to inseminate Savannah. But, they don't even have to mate. They don't actually have to mate physically. I mean, it'd probably be better, but they could, with technology, you could have a surrogate. You just get the sperm and the egg and mix it up in a dish and put it in another woman. I prefer they did it naturally. I prefer they actually mated. So I would get Tyson Fury and I'd put him on top of Savannah Marshall. And he'd take care of business. And he'd probably make her a sandwich afterwards. You remember that? When he cheated on Paris and took her back, he rumped up some bird, and afterwards he made her a sandwich, which was very sweet. I thought that was quite sweet. Hey, do you want a sandwich? After he just rumped her, yeah, sure, man. I mean, I'd expect usually it's the other way around. People say a woman should make a sandwich for a man, especially after he's taking care of business properly. She's got to. If you take care of business properly on a woman, she needs, a good 10 minutes to recover. In my experience. Yeah, and I've taken care of a lot of business, believe that. Okay? So, you give it 10 minutes to recover, have a little kiss and a cuddle afterwards, and she'll go, damn, that was good. Whoa, you make me, my legs are still a bit funny. Give me 10 minutes and I'll make you a sandwich. Yeah? So, I would get Tyson Fury. Okay? He can punch when he wants to. He's got excellent skills. He's big lump. I don't believe he's 6'9". He's more like 6'7.5". A lot of pictures he's on his tippy toes too. But I would get Savannah Marshall and I would put Tyson Fury on top of her. Take care of business until she gets pregnant. So, hopefully if they can time it right and all that, you can get these little things these days, that time when you're ovulating, apparently. These little kits in boots. And you can time when the woman's ovulating. Whereas the man's always ready to bust a nut, so it doesn't matter. And when she's ready to ovulate, you take her by the hand, bring her to Tyson Fury Caravan, and he gets on top of her, takes care of business, makes her a sandwich, and Bob's your uncle. And then what? Well, in 21 years' time, you've got a huge heavyweight prospect. That's after he's gone through the juniors and the amateurs. You make sure once you breed them, once the kid has been bred, obviously you want it to be a boy. If it isn't a boy, then you have to carry on breeding until you get a boy. I don't know. I think you can probably do things in China these days where you can actually choose the gender of the kid. So you would choose a boy, obviously, because women's boxing is whack, and you don't want a woman to box. You want her to be in the kitchen making sandwiches, and the offspring of Tyson Fury, or if he fails, get the breeding bull Sugar Shane on her. Yeah, Savannah Marshall, and you got a future champion. And from the minute it's born, he's born, I should say. The minute he's born, right? Yeah, train. Yeah, I'm talking about the training, the supplements, okay, the nutrition, everything to be champion. Huh? I don't know. So what would you call the kid? I don't know. Patrick Bateman Fury or something like that. Let's say Patrick Bateman Fury, Pat Fury, Pat Bateman Fury. Yeah? And then on the other side of the Atlantic, on America, whilst Tyson is breeding with Savannah, you got Deontay Wilder. You get Deontay Wilder. Why? Well, he's got massive punch. He also fought Tyson Fury. So then you've got the legacy fight, like Conor Bum and Chris Eubank Jr. It's amazing, isn't it? The hairs on the back of your neck. It's like, shut up, Adam Smith, you're a mug. I don't want to hear about no cacophony of noise, neither. Anyway, so on the other side of the Atlantic, you get Deontay Wilder. There haven't really been any other decent American heavyweights, right? And he's got a huge punch, although that might have something to do with the titanium they inserted into his right hand. But you breed Deontay Wilder. Who would you put Deontay Wilder on top of? Well, it's got to be Clarence Shields. Yeah? Now, as long as Clarence Shields actually, is technically, she looks a bit like Big Mike Obama, so you're a bit scared. Like, is she one of them Transformers? I don't think so. She doesn't punch hard enough. She doesn't have much of a punch. But for a woman, she's skillful. She got movement, And you mix her, you put Deontay Wilder on top of what's her face? Clarence Shields, and then you've got the punch of Deontay Wilder, and he was also quite speedy, and the skills of Clarence Shields, which for a woman are good. She should still be cooking fried chicken for her husband, but anyway, whatever. So you get Deontay Wilder, and you put him on top of Clarence Shields. And then, around the same time, you time it so that, Patrick Bateman Fury is conceived around the same time as Deontay Wilder Shields. Deontay Wilder is so arrogant that he would probably call him just saying, oh no, the kid gotta have my name and shit. And Clarence Shields is so arrogant as well. She goes, no, she got back. Yeah, I don't want to be Wilder. I got to be Wilder Shields. You know what I'm saying? Cause like I'm the GOAT. You know what I'm saying? I'm the GOAT. I want to do the double barrel shit, and I want to spell Deontay with an apostrophe after the D-E. Deontay Wilder Shields shit. Yeah, and there you have it. Your future super fight. Yeah. You mixed the best bloodlines of each country, to make two heavyweight fighters, a future super fight. Yeah. You breed them well, you bring them well. From the minute they're conceived, Patrick Bateman Fury and Deontay Wilder Shields and shit, and they'll be born around the same time, will be bred for combat. Yeah. What is it now? 2025. I mean, they'll be destroyed. They'll be like Moses the Talmud. They'll turn pro early. Well, I mean, I don't believe that. That Moses Itama is actually 20. He looks about 35 and talks like he's 35, but whatever, man. Or like Mike Tyson. Maybe they could beat Mike Tyson's record of being the youngest heavyweight champion and shit. So, yeah. So then you got a future super fight. I reckon, you got to give them a few years to build it up a bit. I reckon, like, by the time they age, like, 25, 26. Yeah. One of them would have won, like, the WBO and IBF title. Yeah. Maybe Dante. Wilder Shields would have won the IBF and WBO. And Patrick Bateman Fury. Pat Bateman Fury would have won the other two titles, WBC and WBA. And then you have the super fight. And you fight for the ring, the global, the best ever, the bloodlines, the legacy. Do you know what I'm saying? People got no imagination in boxing. Yeah? I might start a farm. Like I said, they don't even have to rump up each other. You can artificially inseminate and mix it up and stuff like that these days. So, I could have a breeding farm. You could think about other matches. Maybe get Sky Nicholson to breed with Huey Fury, and then you got the Muhammad Ali, the white Muhammad Ali, or I don't know. Or maybe you might want to mix Sky Nicholson with someone with a bit more power like Dave Allen, or, you can make a whole breeding program. A whole breeding program of future fighters. And then instead of having whack fighters like Camp Belland-Hatton and Nazim Hamed's whack son of Dar Muhammad, he beats up on 17-year-old teenage crackheads who come out of the Romanian sewers. Yeah, you've actually got two people bred for the job. Yeah, why has no one thought of this? I don't know about it. Anybody want to go in business? Anybody want to go in business? Anyone want to go in business? Yeah, if there's anyone money out there, they want to go in business, hit up the Triple B in the comments section. And we'll breed some future champions. Peace in the Middle East. Oh, yeah. And, I'd like to hear comments. Comments from the fans about who you would breed. Who would you want in the Triple B breeding program for a future champion? A future super fight.